Welcome to the Bryce Eddy Show. So today, my guest is Michael Cassidy. You might have seen a display that this guy, took out and got in trouble for that the Satanists put up. So anyway, this is my kind of guy, tearing down the altars and the idols, and we're happy to have him on the show today. Find out more about him and the battle that he's in. So please welcome to the show, Michael Cassidy.
Hey, thanks for having me here today, Bryce.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on. I followed the news story at the time, and I know you're going to provide us with some updates. But what occurred to me with that whole entire thing is, those folks. I mean, there are genuine occultists out there. Mm-hmm. There are genuine people that worship the dark Lord, and then there's people that are, political trolls and people that I don't think, believe what they believe. And I'm not familiar with this group, but I think, some of the stuff that they're doing is just to antagonize Christians, just to antagonize people in our culture. And it seems like that's what that thing was about. So I'd love to get, your background. I'd love to get just sort of a general, how you got there, kind of a thing. And then I'd love to find out, what you know about those folks, and, just tell us kind of the whole broad story, and then let's catch up with, kind of what's happening to you now.
Sure. So I live in Mississippi. My background is in aviation. I was active duty Navy for about 12 years, flew F-18s and then T-45s. And then I got sent to Mississippi to be an instructor pilot, and then got off active duty and have done that job in the reserves for a few years now. And so I'm in Mississippi last December when I guess some weekend, the story from Iowa went viral on social media, and I saw the post from a state representative who's also a pastor in Iowa, and he was defending having a altar to for the Satanic Temple to have this devil display up there, and I had no idea that this thing existed. It hadn't made the media in Mississippi. People weren't talking about it, but it suddenly became a leading news story over the next few days. And of course, I was disgusted by it. And we shouldn't be honoring the devil or anything remotely similar to the devil. And
Sure.
and so I saw that there were these big phone campaigns that people were trying to flood the governor's office with protests saying, "Hey, take this thing down. Come on." I saw that the governor had a big meeting in the rotunda, the state capitol rotunda, which is where this satanic statue was located. And I thought, okay, people are putting pressure. The government's going to back down. They're going to say, yeah, it wasn't a smart decision. Whatever bureaucrat okayed this, we're going to take it down. But they left it up. And so the day before I tore it down, so that on a Wednesday, I saw it was still up. So I bought a plane ticket, went up there, and then the next morning went to the Capitol and saw it was still there, and that there wasn't anybody else there. And so I took it down, and then turned myself in. And then I got charged with a misdemeanor for vandalism, which of course, I never denied what I did. I turned myself in. I mean, things made out of pool noodles and, just cheap sequin stuff. It was not expensive. And then after a month or so, the Iowa district attorney, who's a leftist founded by George Soros, she upped the charge to this felony hate crime, which is absurd for various legal reasons. And then, of course, dude, we'll talk about the Satanic Temple here in a couple minutes, but had no idea who these people are. And so there's no hate crime, if you can even call it that, against any individual or group. Again, I don't know who these people are. You can't have a hate crime against a demonic statue. So it was just patently absurd. And
Well, that doesn't stop the left. I mean, come
Yeah.
on, that doesn't stop these prosecutors. I mean, they're not going to actually prosecute real things. So you know,
No. And so what they were trying to do is they were just trying to bump their stats on how many hate crimes that they
right,
could prosecute in their jurisdiction. It's something that, believe it or not, this administration's Department of Justice, they give funding. They give, I think it's like $10 million a year to various jurisdictions if they put in these applications, these jurisdictions, and they say, hey, if we get this money, then we can increase our prosecution of hate crimes from 10 next year to 20 the year after that to 25 after that. I've seen some of these applications afterwards, and that's really what they're trying to do. So they wanted me to, you know, plead guilty to a hate crime or bully me into doing that, and of course, I said no. And then I think a week before the trial was going to happen, they dropped the charge because they knew that if it actually went to trial, nothing was going to, they were not going to win. And so what happened is I took a plea deal where it's, again, a misdemeanor vandalism charge, just like I had turned myself in for. I'm on probation and the charge goes away, you know, in not that long a time. So really that's what's going on with Iowa. And then the latest really is that the Navy, because I'm in the Navy Reserves, even though I wasn't active duty, I wasn't doing drills that day, had nothing to do with the Navy, wasn't in uniform, didn't start talking about the Navy like this is for John Paul Jones or anything like that. The Navy, unfortunately, has been a lot of leadership in our military. And I'm speaking, even though I'm a reservist, I'm not speaking on behalf of the Department of Defense. I have to say that it's kind of obvious because they're going after me, so I'm not exactly speaking on their behalf. But they have deemed fit to charge me this a few weeks ago, charged me as a domestic extremist, using basically referencing the same language as the Iowa district attorney when they put in that hate crime charge against me. And so it's that's really the latest with me with the Navy. They're trying to get me kicked out of the Navy, and it is a unfortunate, you know, part of the culture that has been set from this administration is that they've been persecuting conservatives, they've been going after Christians, and whether it's with COVID, whether it's pro-life, all sorts of things, and then they see somebody who did a nonviolent act of Christian civil disobedience, and they are saying, no, we can't tolerate that. So yeah, that's the latest with me.
Yeah, wow, it's absurd. I mean, you know, it's interesting because okay, I'm a bring back knuckle sandwiches kind of a guy, right? We have gotten to the point where, from a civilization standpoint, we become over civilized, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the fact, and I want to ask you, the fact that a pastor was endorsing. I mean, go back to that. The pastor was okay with this. He wasn't condemning it. I mean, tell me more about that and this guy.
Sure. So, you know, I don't remember the man's name, but he had the same mindset that a lot more Christian leaders had than I would have believed, in that they look at the Satanic Temple, which, like you alluded to earlier, this group, they don't actually believe in the devil. They're atheists. They're they're trolls. Which is what I found out, and that they do these things in order to mock Christianity. It is explicitly meant to mock Christians, and that's not religion. There's no, you know, honest search for divine truth that the Satanic Temple is doing. They're trying to weasel their way and say, oh, well, we're a religion, but what do you believe? Oh, we don't believe in anything. We're just,
Yeah.
we're mock. Our entire goal is to mock Christians, and that you can't just say you're a religion and then, oh, well, we get to do whatever we want. Like the example that I've given is that if there were some group that went to the Iowa Department of Administrative Services and they said, you know what, we worship Osama bin Laden, and we venerate him, and we want to put a statue up for our religion to Osama bin Laden, and it's him, celebrating 9/11, let's say. Nobody in their right mind would say, yeah, we're okay with this. It's obviously mocking America.
Maybe on a university campus, modern university campuses. I mean, half of these kids, when asked about Osama bin Laden, kind of give him a little praise and say that he was right, and So I mean, it's funny because even your example, I mean, we're at that point of absurdity in this world now. All right, so I think I do not. All right, there's our position as Americans that we're a pluralistic society. I think we agree upon that. We want people to come to Christ voluntarily. That's the Christian message. We aren't Islamists. We're not forcing people to convert, and that's why we have some of that freedom of religion here. But at the same time, an organization like this should be under no protections whatsoever because they aren't a religion. That's not their intention. They do not have, any real sincere held belief in regards to the occult, although they probably are, in their heart, de facto occultists. They shouldn't enjoy any of the religious protections. They're a troll group. And that's why I'm saying, in other times, in past times when we were, less civilized, but we had more of a culture of, hey, you're going to dishonor me in front of my wife. You're going to, call me out. You may get served a knuckle sandwich. And I think that is actually a better society. I'm not obviously endorsing violence on my show, but I think we were a better culture and a better time, and people were less rude and felt that they could get away with less because there's a dude on the other end of that fist that might take, might object to your position.
Yeah, the Satanists, again, or the Satanic Temple. Another key difference with religious freedom is that there's nobody saying that the Satanic Temple members, that they can't do whatever it is that they do on their own private property, on whatever gatherings that they have.
Go do your thing.
But even if, and so they're not even a religion, but even if, they truly, even if we're dealing with the subset of Satanists that actually do worship the devil and, do all these weird, satanic rituals, the government doesn't have to give access to everybody in the pub, like in a place like a state capitol where you've got families coming in. That was one of the craziest things that somebody sent me. I got a lot of mail or social media messages, for the most part, very positive. But there is one guy that he was mad at me because he wanted to show his kid or his kids the statue of Satan as a good thing. And that's child abuse that you shouldn't. And it's horrible for any government to act as if that's something okay to be promoted. We used to think in our country that government should, they should be reflections of good. They should be reflections of good values and laws and proper morality. And like all law, it's based on a certain set of values. People say that you can't legislate morality. Well, pretty much all laws are moral laws to some degree. There's no such thing as a values neutral society, and that our values have come in America, they're built on a Western Christian foundation. And that's what all of our founders believed. That's why we have the nation that we have today. And for us to, for a government or a pastor to say that we can't have the discernment to say no to a statue of the devil, that is, that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, just on the face, just words of condemnation, not support, should be like the base requirement of a pastor, is to say, hey, while people have free speech, this is ridiculous, stupid, and it should not be being displayed in our government building, and it shouldn't enjoy the protections of an actual religion. This is an effort by trolls to antagonize us, and so get out of here with that silly display. I mean, that should be the posture of every American. That should be the posture of every Christian. It should be condemned. And listen, I mean, I don't, I think, I don't want to endorse vandalism necessarily, right? But I applaud you and people who are starting to, rise up as a moral people and saying, hey, this stuff is stupid, we're not going to allow it, and if I have to tear it down myself because these idiot leftist state actors won't, then okay, and if enough of us do that, listen, it's the ants versus the grasshoppers, same thing during COVID. If enough of us said we're not wearing these stupid masks, there would have been no issues. But too many of us are not brave, not showing courage, not standing up for these things, and so I applaud you for it, and the trouble you're in, I think you'll get through it, even at the Navy level. But it's sad to see how far we have fallen just across the board as a people. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
So tell me about what you're doing now, because I know you've had some political aspirations and you've been doing things kind of across the board there. Catch us up on what you're doing there.
I certainly did have I ran for office for Congress back in 2022. I did not run this year. There's some speculation, unfortunately, that this was just some sort of political stunt, and it was not. There was a genuine disgust with an anger at what was going on with the up in Iowa, and with politics. I don't have any real plans of whether to run again. I certainly might. I think a lot of what happens next really is going to be determined in the next few days. So today is it's Reformation Day, October 31st. So election day is in 5 days, and I do think that a whole lot of what both my path forward and the specifically with the Navy and the country's path forward is really going to be determined this election day, and that we see whether I mentioned it before with this administration in military training in the Department of Defense, that they've got military training where they have been telling, I think, 15,000 Army soldiers in North Carolina that pro-life groups are domestic terrorists. There's in Idaho, actually, there's a somebody in the Guard. There's a Christian there, an officer, that he got relieved of command because somebody complained about him being pro-biblical marriage, and saying that he was a Christian, not in uniform, not on base. And there's this widespread, again, anti-Christian actions in the military, in our country, that's being done because of the leaders of this political administration. So I know I'm hopeful that we'll get a change on election day. with Trump, and that we can get get people out and vote and get things turned around, because we simply can't take another 4 years of this leftist indoctrination in our government.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And by the way, I mean, look, if this was a political stunt, like, I'm not opposed to that, and I, understand it wasn't from your position, but I'm okay with Trump driving a garbage truck and trolling the left and this administration that way. I mean, it's great. I am not against us showing the absurdity of things. I'm not against us doing things, for political reasons. So I don't think, even that criticism, carries any real weight with me. If you had done it for that purpose, or to, raise your profile, whatever, I don't care. I mean, we need people to stand up and warn us and use these things to show us what's going on. And I'm glad that you've exposed more of what's happening in our military, with our military leadership, because they, especially at the top, have been swallowed up by the left. They've become owned largely by the left as an institution, but there's really amazing military members there. I talk to some of these guys daily that are so unhappy and distraught about what's happened in the hollowing out of our military's character, or just the rampant evil that is being perpetrated on our military members. I mean, we saw so many of them get forced out based on the vaccination status and everything else during COVID, and I think all of that was super intentional. I hope that this all does turn around under a Trump administration. I think we're coming into some incredibly challenging times, even if he wins, because we still have to win the larger cultural battle. But there has been no better team assembled. Donald Trump is one man, but the others that will be in his administration, it's going to include a lot of Christians. It's going to include a lot of strong believers. It's also going to include people from the traditional Democrat side and the liberal side, and people that just want to see America kind of get back on track and not fall into a Marxist dystopia, which is what the other side wants. And I do fear that they're going to cheat like crazy. If young men don't come out, or men in general don't come out, if you're looking at all the early voting numbers, I mean, it's overwhelmingly female. Thankfully, we've got a lot of females on our side too, but the initial numbers, it's the women that are coming out to, many of which are voting solely to be able to kill their own children, which is mind-boggling. So, we're in dire straits. But there is some hope in the momentum that we're seeing. And I don't know what your feelings are, but I'd love to hear them about what you're seeing in Mississippi and, your neck of the woods, and, what you feel the energy looks like right now.
Well, Mississippi is definitely a pro-Trump state. I've got no concerns about how we're gonna support the Trump-Vance campaign down here. I'm looking at some of the the early data too, and it's I'm cautiously optimistic. Certainly. I just saw a case up in Michigan where there is some Chinese national that he was able to register to vote without being a citizen, and that his ballot is going to count because it got sent into the pile, and they can't. Fortunately, I mean, they don't tie ballots to individuals' names, so of course it's going to get counted. So there's definitely, some amount of fraud, but, even with people dumping ballots, I saw that I think the GOP is doing a much better job this year of being on the lookout for this kind of thing. And I saw that, I think it was a group connected with CPAC. They just today, they they got video of a guy dumping like 500 ballots into some box in Wisconsin. And in Wisconsin, you've got to turn your ballot in yourself. It's one of the huge things that the GOP has to get done, assuming that whether at the federal level with Trump winning, or even just in states that are controlled by Republicans, we need to get election integrity as a top focus. So that way we minimize, we're never going to stop all kinds of possible fraud, but we need to get, whether it's ID, stop these ballot boxes where you can, stuff hundreds of ballots. There's got to be a lot of focus on that. So that way we, don't have to worry about this every 4 years or every 2 years or every year. But things are good in Mississippi at with the presidential election. We've got, we're just like any place else. We've got a lot more we can do at the state level to get more conservative, but I'm optimistic that we'll keep pushing that ball down the field.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. Well, I think the energy is good. It's positive. The other side seems to be panicking, which is always a good sign. But, they do not want to lose, because there are people that will go to jail. There's people that will lose their jobs, not just at the administration level, but the deep state, the bureaucracy. There's people that are concerned that we're going to, have Elon Musk come in and help Trump and the gang eliminate a lot of jobs and duplicative agencies and, waste and fraud and all those things that we really need. There's, people in pharma that are terrified of a Robert F. Kennedy Jr. There's a lot of folks that are concerned about this amazing coalition that Trump has put together. So, don't underestimate the nefariousness of what they can accomplish also between, November 5th and the 20th, should Trump get in. It should be concerning to us all. Bottom line, though, man, we got to pray. And we need to pray for a revival here in the United States, because that's ultimately what will turn this ship around. So how do we support you, and how do we follow you and keep tabs on the challenges that you're going through?
I just have my social media, which is my X account, which is my name, Michael Cassidy. In terms of support, we still have our legal fundraiser open on Give, Send, Go with just search my name on there, and it's to help with defending me against the Navy. The Navy's trying to get me kicked out. So hopefully that case gets dropped if we get a Trump victory. But if not, then I'll be going before this board sometime next year to defend myself.
Well, hey, I will pray that it gets dropped. I will pray for a Trump victory. Follow us on this show. BryceEddy.com is our website. We're building an email list to insulate us from the shadow banners and everybody who hates truthful content and conservatives and Christ. So follow us there. Follow us on Instagram at Super Bryce Eddy or The Bryce Eddy Show, or Bryce Eddy 1 on X. Well, hey, to God be the glory. Thank you for joining me, Michael, and we are out, brother. Hey, thank you for watching or listening to this show. If you are someone who listens to us on the podcast apps, please go to our Rumble channel. Even if you're not going to watch us there, we'd appreciate you hitting subscribe. We want to boost those numbers up and make sure that channel continues to grow. But again, thank you so much for listening to us.